All right, I'm happy to report that my black strawberry tomato plant that I broke trellising it up because it kind of was laying over, and I lifted it up to trellis it while holding the camera while tying it up. I ended up kind of like kinking it a little bit. But I gave it a full watering can of water the night that happened. And I'll show you the difference, or I'll try to show you the difference here. But this part of the stem was completely pointing down, and it has started to turn back up, and it's not like soft like this. I'm not sure if this part's going to bounce back. What I'll probably do is wait and see what parts kind of bounce back up and which ones don't, and whichever ones don't, I'll just cut off and let it kind of heal itself. I'm also giving it, this is full, I'm letting it just kind of seep slowly in. I'm going to give it a full watering can of water. I might actually give it two because it's supposed to be almost 90 degrees today and no rain. So making sure it has plenty of water to drink, kind of like when you're sick, make sure you stay hydrated. Same thing with my tomato plant here, and I believe this one's going to make it. Okay, so this right here is kind of like the little wound on this black strawberry plant. But as I said, if this is not getting droopy, it started to turn up towards the sun. So that means this is getting the water and nutrients that it needs. So I believe this plant has found a way to heal from my negligence. And then the other thing I wanted to show you here, I'll put a clip of me tying this tomato plant up. When I originally tied up my tomatoes, I missed one. I have this is my sunrise bumblebee that I kind of tucked in the bed with my brassicas and onions and miscellaneous things. So this, at this point, is very much, was laying on the ground, and if I set it up, it's going to start growing. It looks like it wants to grow 90 degrees. It is going to be fine, first of all. I'll try not to stab myself here. Get rid of that. Okay, so we're going to get this tied up in a couple places and pruned. It's going to start heading in the right direction here. That may seem extreme, but this is a sucker. So that's a huge, like it looks like a huge amount of the plant. But if you look on that, there's one set of blossoms right here. So that whole part of that plant that was coming off, like perpendicular to the plant, now that I have it tied up, that doesn't need to stay there. All right. I'll do one more set right here. There, that one was laying on the ground. Now it's heading in the right direction. A few lower branches trimmed off. Took a really big sucker off of that. And there's a little sucker. I will let this branch off a little bit more as it goes up, but not yet. So it was laying, when I first put this up, this part was completely growing this way because it had been laying down, so it was growing up. When I picked it up, it was pointing out this way. Now, that was Sunday night, this is Tuesday morning, you cannot tell that in any way, shape, or form. Apparently today is all tomato maintenance talk. So if you decide to single stem your tomatoes or to prune off the suckers, it's a good idea just when you do a lap through the garden, which I do about 5,000 times a day, but not necessary, just my obsession. You do want to just go through and pinch off the suckers. So I'll show you some that are pretty well established that could create a whole nother tomato plant, and I'll show you some that are just really little here. So right here, main part of the stem, here's the branch. This right here is a sucker. So we're going to pop that off, and that's it. Actually, there's one little guy right here. Now it is a good idea till you have more practice to not prune off the top. Just let that grow more, because it's hard to tell, is this the main part or is this the main part? So just leave that alone until it's grown a little bit more. Now over here, again, main part of the stem, here's the branch. That is a sucker. Again, this is one of those. I could create a whole nother tomato plant from this one. Sometime I'd like to do an experiment, like having two plants in similar soil, in similar space, one let go completely wild, one single stem, and kind of weigh the fruit and see what happens. I did find, I feel like I get much bigger fruit, better tasting tomatoes when I do this, and I think less disease. Again, if you're doing this a different way, you're not doing anything wrong. You're choosing a different method. So that was a brandywine. Here's an Amish paste. You can see the branches are much longer and kind of droop down more. But like right here, that's a sucker. That's coming off. Right here, the next one over, there's a sucker. That's coming off. Now this is what you do with indeterminate tomato plants that will continue to grow. If you don't know which kind you have, Google it. It should tell you determinate or indeterminate. Indetermined amount of growth. Determined amount of growth. I'm just spraying all over my legs here, trying to fill my watering can while holding this with one. Okay. So I'm over here at my wagon of guilt. These are the plants that have not made it into the garden. Doesn't look like they will this year. But in a yogurt container here, I've got this guy right here. Now, this was one of the sweet potatoes that I had planted in soil, and all the roots were down here, and it had plant at the other end, but the plants didn't have any roots. So I just put that in some soil, or in a cup of water, not soil, a cup of water, to see if those plants would produce roots. Let me get out of the sun for a second. And they have. So these plants up here didn't have any roots when I planted my sweet potatoes a little while ago. Oh, come on, there you go. And now they do. The sweet potatoes are doing really well. The ones that I purchased are not. By no fault of the stores, I don't think. I think it was just they sat in a cup of water a little too long. It seems to me, in my personal opinion, that they put the sweet potatoes out in the stores before they should be planted. So anytime I've gotten them from the stores, which I guess has only been a couple times, but anyway, anytime I've got it from the store, I've put it in a cup of water, mason jar of water actually, and it sat in that mason jar of water for like a while. So I think the water just got gross, or the jar got gross, or something. The sweet potato was no longer happy. So they didn't do real well in this bed right here. But the sweet potatoes that I started are doing pretty well. They're putting off some decent growth. But the ones that I had purchased, I put in here, and they're not doing fantastic. So I was going to pop a few of these off and just put them somewhere over here. It should be fine. Alright, so sometimes I just have to turn the camera off and just be in my garden. I just turned the music up and went a lap around my garden with my bucket and weeded. I can't tell you how much more motivating it is when you're weeding to see them pile up in a bucket opposed to just like kind of pulling them and dropping them. Kind of keeps you going. And then the other thing that's extraordinarily motivating, if you have chickens, which we do, feed the weeds to the chickens, because then it gives them purpose. Good morning, ladies. There's a snack for you. Alright, I've been in the garden for a couple hours and it's been lovely, but it's starting to get hot. So I want to just share one more thing. Today is supposed to be like in the 90s today. I don't typically water my garden a ton. I thankfully live somewhere where there tends to be enough rain, and if I leave my plants alone, I feel like they're able to adjust to the situation. But we haven't had much rain, so what I do when I do water is I just kind of spot water. I try to water a few places very, very, very deeply by the following three things. I've got three things going on right here that I'm going to show you. One, I just have the hose on like kind of a slow trickle, and I just set it someplace and let it slowly trickle, because what you want is you want that water to slowly soak into the soil, not wash the soil away, and you want the water like down deep into the soil, not just at the surface. The other thing I have going on here is, let me move back just a little bit. Let me move to the other side because I can't move back there, too much stuff in the way. So I have my milk jug that has 2 holes poked in the bottom. It's about done running out, but I fill that a couple times so I know that particular space in the garden has gotten about 2 gallons of water. And then the other thing is I'll fill up my watering can and just set it like that, so that the water kind of, again, just kind of similar to the milk jug, slowly trickles out. That does multiple things. One, the water's going in is slow, so it can seep down into the soil. It keeps the water at the base of the plant and doesn't make the foliage wet, because when you have wet foliage, often that's where you a lot of times can start growing fungus and blight and those kind of things. It's the perfect condition for those types of things. So if you're able to, it is best just to water at the base of the plant and not get the plant itself wet. I know that seems weird because you're like, well, when it rains, the plant gets wet. But that's just when it rains. Like if you're watering, if you can, it is best practice to be able to water at the base. Now, if your only option is to set up a sprinkler and let it go, by all means. You don't want to trying to do the best thing get in the way of doing the correct thing or doing a good thing. But when I can, this is how I water. And then I also have an idea that this space right here, I filled this twice, I filled that twice. Just this space of the garden has received about 5 gallons of water. So I know that soil is good and saturated in there. I have it mulched deeply with grass clippings that helps keep the moisture in. And then I'm not going to even think about watering that again for a while. And we're hoping to get some rain in a few days here. So small spaces in the garden, water them slowly, and with a lot of water, and then leave them alone for a few days. Now containers are different. I don't do a ton of container water gardening, but I do water my containers that I do have pretty much every day. All right, so thanks for joining me. I'm going to get this video edited and up, and then take care of some of my other adult responsibilities in life that don't involve playing in the dirt. Thanks for joining us.